One shot in the dark, the night Lincoln was taken. April 14, 1865. Washington, D.C. was finally starting to breathe again. The Civil War had just ended days ago, and after years of bloodshed, people were out on the streets, smiling, celebrating, hugging strangers like long-lost family. It felt like the nightmare was over. And right at the center of that hope stood Abraham Lincoln, tall, tired, but determined to rebuild a broken nation. That Friday night, Lincoln wasn't thinking about politics. Nah, for once, he just wanted a break. He turned to his wife, Mary, and said he felt like catching a play. So they made their way to Ford's Theater to watch a popular comedy called Our American Cousin. The crowd went wild when they saw him. Folks stood up, clapped, cheered. It was like seeing a hero walk into the room. Lincoln gave a modest nod, that signature half-smile, and took his seat in the presidential box. But while the city celebrated peace, someone else was burning with rage. John Wilkes Booth wasn't just any guy, he was a famous actor, known across the country. But behind that charm? A man deeply loyal to the Confederacy, furious over the South's defeat. To Booth, Lincoln wasn't a savior, he was the villain who crushed everything he believed in. And that night, Booth had one mission: change history with a single shot. Around 10:15 p.m., the theater was packed, laughter echoing through the hall. Booth slipped in like he belonged, no one questioned him. He knew every inch of that building. Quiet, calculated, he made his way up to the presidential box. There was barely any security. Different times, you know? No heavy guards, no checkpoints, just a simple wooden door between Lincoln and danger. Booth paused for a second outside that door. Then he stepped in. Inside, Lincoln sat relaxed, leaning forward slightly, fully into the play. Mary sat beside him, enjoying the moment. They had no clue. Not a single clue. Booth raised a small pistol, a .44 caliber Derringer. And then, bang! The sound cracked through the theater like thunder. At first, some folks thought it was part of the show. But nah, this was real. Lincoln's head dropped forward. The room froze. Then came the screams. Mary cried out, grabbing her husband. Panic spread like wildfire. People were shouting, some rushing forward, others too stunned to move. Booth didn't hesitate. He dropped the gun, pulled out a knife, and turned toward anyone who might stop him. Then he climbed over the railing and jumped down to the stage, about 12 feet. The landing wasn't clean, he broke his leg, but adrenaline kept him going. He stood up, raised his arm, and shouted, "Sic semper tyrannis." Thus always to tyrants. Yeah, he really said that. Then he took off, limping but fast, disappearing backstage and out into the night. Back in the box, chaos ruled. A young doctor pushed through the crowd and checked Lincoln. The wound was fatal. Still, they carried him across the street to a small boarding house. They laid him on a bed, too short for his tall frame, his legs hung off the edge. Through the long night, people gathered outside. Soldiers, citizens, officials, all waiting, hoping for a miracle. But deep down, they knew. At 7:22 a.m. on April 15, 1865, Abraham Lincoln was gone. Just like that. The city that had been celebrating hours earlier? Now it was silent. Heavy. People cried openly in the streets. Grown men, soldiers who had survived war, stood there with tears running down their faces. It felt like the soul of the nation had been shaken. Booth didn't get far. The government launched a massive manhunt, tracking him across states. For 12 days, he hid, running, injured, desperate. Finally, he was cornered in a barn in Virginia. Soldiers called for him to surrender. He refused. The barn was set on fire. In the chaos, Booth was shot. He died soon after, his plan complete, but his legacy forever tied to one of the darkest nights in American history. And Lincoln? He became more than just a president. He became a symbol of unity, of sacrifice, of a country trying to heal. One shot. That's all it took to change everything.